hold on to your soul, you have to become fearless. You have to know that you're an eternal being, an eternal soul, that whether you're in the body, out of the body, the life as is not stopping. It's the existence. But I mean, of course, how much you have to purge and let go within yourself to kind of get to this point. It's very difficult. A lot of people, they need to hold on to some sort of a belief or anything like that because they have fear. And this fear is the contraction of solar plexus, is like, okay, then there is nothing. Then if there is nothing, then I am the sole actor and creator, and I have to be also responsible in a soul way, right? All of these different religions, they have some kind of a seed, but the main Gnosticism or the main knowledge has been hidden because, again, if you remember, knowledge is being. Knowledge is being. How many beings of light nature have been there for thousands of years? Obviously, they withdrew because no one wants to incarnate here. And if someone incarnates here, how much work they have to do to purify their genetic material so that they can actually see through the blindness, through the corruption of their bloodlines. So now, these kind of beings, they're just hidden by in plain sight because they have nothing to appeal to the world, you know? They have nothing to kind of attract the world with. That's what it is. That's why when people, like today, one of my followers who was also on the retreat said, the more I grow, the more I see that how this teaching, it's just completely not for people. Like from the majority, there's no connection between their consciousness and the higher teaching, just no connection. It's like a gap and the bridge hasn't been built yet, you know? It's like you either have to really have a device to fly over or you can see it, obviously, you can see, but you can never reach. Even when we say thought or we say some higher beings in the past, we think it's one being, but it's not. Because the cosmic consciousness may appear like, because it doesn't really matter for the higher being that on the earth it's known as thought or as this and as that, because that is cluster of knowledge. Cosmic consciousness, cluster of knowledge. It doesn't have the same idea that, oh, I need to be called egg, or I need to be called great, or I need to be called this and that, because from the highest standpoint, all of these ideas are just dissolved. They are not a part of higher clusters of cosmic consciousness. And the cosmic consciousness can stream itself into some kind of a being, and okay, that being has appearance on earth. Okay, it appears as a bird or like thought or like, I don't know, Osiris. But we have to know that at that time, this Osiris, it's not, for us, it looks like one. But it is conscious, it's a stream, it's the entire stream. That if that stream were to now appear, it would be 100,000 beings here. Or 1 billion beings of the divided nature, you see? And so when in the webinar I showed this picture, you see, because the same consciousness, right? The same consciousness of 100,000, it will equal, look, how many people here? It will burst. And that's why the alchemy is needed only for the body. So who, like, let's say Jivanmukti is not one being. There is some kind of a seed of an individuality in terms of, look, I just, you know, okay, I go and walk. But, and this is what's interesting, because when we speak in terms of alchemy, let's say most of our chakras or centers are open up here, right? That's why they've done the worst they could have done for the humanity with this corona, because corona itself indicates that they started targeting higher centers from the heart. Respiratory system, they targeted thymus, thyroid, and the upper glands with this corona. Because once they polluted the blood with genetically modified parasites, which are blocking, which are, you know, in my book, I've written now this, my observation research. What they've done, they've disrupted electromagnetic field of the human body. What does it mean? It means disruption of immunity. And it can play whichever way. Plus, people already were infected with before with whatever pathogens and stuff, plus the plastic food. So your immunity is interrupted with all these electromagnetic fields, electricity, whatever else, but we can't live without it, right? But at least you can reduce it to the minimum. Now, this disruption, first of all, now, let's say you're a cosmic, powerful soul, and you want to come to this world. How do you come? You have to come through a womb. You come through a womb, you take the genetic material. But that higher vibrational cosmic consciousness cannot simply, how would I put it, like kind of settle inside the body properly. So it somewhat always is slightly outward, right? So the vibration is strong, but it will be felt less in the lower centers. And so this being, let's say it's a cosmic consciousness that represents some kind of a cosmic cluster. So this being, in order to completely align with the physical body and settle in it, will need to do so much work. And this is the alchemy. So much work to remove the parasites. How do you do this? How do you maintain? You have to raise your vibration to that frequency where the frequency itself becomes a barrier to any parasitic energy from within and from without. So slowly, slowly, you are transmuting the genetic code. You are removing that genetic modification where the chromosomes were merged in an improper way so that the human life was limited to whatever it is now. The electromagnetic auric field was reduced to nothing so that the body is prone to faster decomposition and a sort of disease state, which is aging, disease state, right? Because of the faster decomposition, because of being prone to be eaten by parasites faster. So, and this was caused by genetic modification. Now, you have to transmute alchemically so that that soul is more and more aligned and it starts dissolving these brutal genetic modifications in your genome so that you again can settle fully, even on the lower levels, kind of that the soul is deeply aligned with the physical body and the parasitic energy can never touch you. So it means that you, through this process, through our chemical process on the physical level, it looks like your body starts getting enlightened. Your body starts vibrating higher frequency. You start purging and expelling all kinds of toxicity, whether it's on a subtle level, and you also close all the accesses to the corrupt information from the genetic material. So it takes time. That's what the real alchemy and work is, spiritual work, where even if you're, let's say, a soul, a selfless soul, you have to go through such difficult moments of purgation, heating up. What is this? Your body is heating up. The soul is trying to settle inside the body. You may see all kinds of phenomena. And by either intuitively knowing it or by having guidance, you're going through this process of purgation, of tapasya, which is known in yoga as tapasya, meaning it's like kind of burning in the cauldron, that the body is your own belly is the cauldron, and you're trying to pull that higher frequency, trying to destroy all the and dissolve all the parasitic energy, trying to purge it, remove it, and also close down all the accesses to that kind of information so that the cosmic consciousness fully unfolds. Now, this higher consciousness, how will it then manifest, it will slowly not only change the genome, right, or kind of dissolve that whatever brutal modification that has been done, but it will also start altering kind of the DNA to a degree where the brain capacity can be used in a more enhanced way or more. The upper glands will start, the whole glandular system will start transforming, because the soul is kind of merging with these subtle energy centers, or I don't know how to say, but it affects on the energetic level. So let's say the thyroid on the physical level is being affected because the pituitary gland and the pineal gland are also aligned now in a different way, and they're functioning more. The metabolic function increases, everything increases. And so the process of detoxification is restored. What happens to normal humans at some point after 30, around 30, they start losing the detoxifying capacity because their glands stagnating, and it's just continue living through the process of decomposition. So their life is actually, we're thinking we're living 120. What's the quality of this life? Nothing. It's just after 30, most of the people losing their vitality, losing their power. They start having diseases, if not early, actually. At this point, I think it's somewhere from the age of 12. So we were lied about the longevity because we were said, oh, you're living 120 years. Yeah, your life is artificially prolonged, meaning the length, by pharmaceuticals. The quality of this life is so poor that actually you lose the quality of that which is called life from the capital L already at the age of 12 to 18, where you start having headaches, some kind of syndromes, allergies, if not earlier even. And then all you do is just suffering and stagnating, and all your religions tell you, no, it's normal because life is about suffering. Life is about this miserable slavery and the state of being enslaved and being indoctrinated and being controlled and having any clue of what life is truly about. And then when your cosmic consciousness, even though you might still retain memory of who you are, but because you borrowed that genetic material, you need to spend tens of years, adjusting and really alchemizing, transforming that flesh to the point where you can hold that vibration to the fullest, where your body no longer causes you pains or some kind of discomfort, or you no longer have these emotional outbursts or some kind of fluctuation in your energy level. Again, if you look at what is youth is not just a physical appearance. Youth is energy. The physical appearance becomes kind of crystallized when you really you have to first regain energy, right? You have to feel good, and this good is not because you popped in a pill or because you took caffeine or because whatever, you're just, the sun is shining. Yeah, that's a temporary good. But it's from inside. You're in this blissful state and you can cultivate it any moment. You can withdraw within. You can cultivate your meditative state at any point, whether you are in action, whether you are driving, but you are retaining awareness. And then it becomes your natural state. And so when you are feeling good enough for a while, then it's the time when you start actually restoring, or as we know, rejuvenating, because first you need to be established in that kind of being where you're not easily swayed, neither emotionally, nor mentally, nor, just nor physically. You're kind of on the same level. Then you start cultivating. And when you cultivate, first you start healing your body because this cultivation is not at first appearing on your face, because you might go through some transformation periods or periods where the body is healing, and when it's healing, it's not yet visible on your face. It's just on a cellular level. The energy is going there where it's needed. Maybe there are some dead cells which have to be removed. It's going through all these processes of detoxification now. Once it's established, then you start seeing it more on the physical level, that the skin is getting clearer, the teeth are getting better, you know, there is a regrowth of hair and stuff like that. So this is the process. Not that I am mixing gold and lead. You know, that's a different type of alchemy. This is a kind of like a chemistry lesson from old times, you know. But the spiritual alchemy is when you understand that, let's say, most of your perceptions of life are dictated actually by the presence of parasites, fungi, worms, protozoas, amoebas, like all your mental states. You are like living in a symbiosis where you literally lost, or kind of your identity is blurred. Your identity is made of some ideas. You're possessed by the world's ideas. But a clear state, or whatever you want to call it, enlightened state, the state of clarity, is very different. There's nothing to do with the validation of the world. It has to do with I am, you know, content. I'm content. Content doesn't matter to me, but I feel good. And that good is established. Good means balance. Contentment means balance. And balance means health. So without that inner balance, and how can you be balanced? You have to free yourself from all this parasitic energies. And physical freeing or detoxification is only one level, because how do you stop this parasitic reinfection or infestation from coming back? If you create the environment for it, if you create favorable conditions, it will come up again. So the real transformation is when your higher frequency took over the body and the physical body is kind of aligned on a cellular and genetic level with the soul frequency. So the frequency itself repels. It becomes a repellent or the barrier for any fungi or any, you know, worms or anything from coming back, because you're no longer addicted to food. Your digestive fire is high, so even if you eat something, there is enough acidity and strength of the digestive fire to digest the food and to destroy. The bloatedness also is a sign when we consider something is indigestion. It hasn't digested properly. The question arises why, and the answer is, first of all, there was not enough acidity, or there was no proper digestive fire, in other words. And so something entered, or there is some malfunction of the digestive system where either the bile is not produced properly, or there is lack of acidity, or there is something else. So enzymes are not produced. And so, but usually when you're going through this process of detoxification, you may have these moments where, oh, that the digestive system works properly, but then suddenly something happens and it no longer works properly. It's because maybe this is the moment when you actually hit the point of killing the parasites at that time, and you know, the toxic matter kind of polluted your gut for a second, so you will start having also this indigestion or some kind of symptoms there. But then, you know, it's temporary. When there is constant toxicity, it's not only just bloatedness, it's all kinds of symptoms. The symptoms spread like a wildfire all over the body. It's arthritis or problems with bones. It's itchiness. It's constant, like living in some kind of half allergic state. Allergic meaning your immune system is constantly in this alert state. So, or for instance, you know, you have other symptoms like gaining weight or some kind of fatigue. You feel like your body eats, but there is no point of that food because it's the teeth are suffering, the hair is falling, the nails are not strong. This is all a sign of parasites, because all these nutrition that you're taking in is not getting absorbed by intestines and by the cells. So cells are starving. The same applies to water consumption. People say, I'm drinking a lot of water. What is the quality of this water? Does that water have enough salts or enough minerals to be absorbed properly? If it's just water, it will only stagnate the kidneys and it's not going to do anything but the harm. And the harm is that the body drinks a lot of water, but the cells are dehydrated. And again, it will cause, what is going to cause? It's decomposition of the cells, or rotting of, not rotting, but I don't know how to say. It's like the cells, because they contain mostly water, right? But this is not normal water. It's a more saline water. So they will feel like they are not nurtured and nourished because the water is not given to them or conveyed to them in that kind of a form that is easily absorbable, right? So all the water that we have just goes through our kidneys and comes out. So it's not absorbed by the body. That's why it's so important to have the water that contains minerals, right? Or that is charged in a particular way, that carries this electromagnetic charge, whether naturally because it's flowing with the speed downwards, like from waterfalls or spring water, right? Or the water that is taken from rivers, or it is water that you yourself charge by connecting to it, or someone else charges by, amplifying its energetic content. So again, we need to know how to regulate our biochemistry, but at the same time, consciousness or the connection with our higher being, the soul, plays a very vital role, because very often our energy body is kind of misaligned, not fully aligned, and people say that, yeah, they feel some buzz here and some, yeah, here it's all okay, you can feel, because a lot of souls, they can retain the connection to the higher being kind of through the upper glands, right? Maybe to a degree, but they don't feel grounded, and they feel kind of that they're constantly going into different polarities. Like I'm either indulging or I'm flying away and practicing austerities. And so in order to not to do this, you need to really understand that the primary goal is alignment with the soul, where the soul is going deeper and deeper into your kind of body, where you're fully aligned, where the energy is not just here, it's all over. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge for the majority of people, because of the presence of parasites, and because the parasites are mostly located in the lower kind of area of the body, and they spread also there, because this area may have much higher frequency and vibration, and they tend to go downwards. That they tend to settle in lower organs, or even sometimes they can even travel through the bloodstream and settle elsewhere, but like it's still in this lower areas. Some people are having problems with feet, skin in the lower areas, what is this called? Procreative systems, and kidneys, digestive system. Even if they're in the respiratory system, it's not like they can very easily settle. It's mostly only fungi that can settle in the respiratory system and destroy it actually very fast. Fungi can, settle somewhere in this, because fungi is much more sophisticated parasite than, let's say, other. And so fungi will affect the mental health mostly. All these depressive states, bipolar, all this is all because the body is really in possession of some kind of type of fungi, or many. And they create sophisticated network where they just consume the body fast. The worms mostly stimulate or overstimulate digestive system when you're like, my hunger is just unbearable. Or sexual urges, because the procreative cycle of worms is correlated, as you know, with the moon cycle. And so oftentimes you see that your sexual drive will increase around that time too. And this, you might think, oh yeah, I'm just feeling, interestingly at that time. But in reality, it's because the worms and their sexual increase, or the compulsion to procreate, affects your mind. And that's very interesting thing, because you see some people complain that they cannot control it. They're trying, they're reading some yogic books. Oh, I need to be on celibacy. The reality, you cannot even fathom that idea of being completely on celibacy as long as parasites are there. Because that function, there will be irritation in these areas. You'll be irritated, in other words, I don't know, stimulated in this kind of way, because the parasites are very closely connected to our procreative organs. And they affect women, for example, especially because, again, there's a blood-sucking parasites. Okay, when the woman has menstrual blood and all this, so they're flocking down closer there, or attaching themselves. So a lot of gynecological problems are related to these blood-sucking parasites. And so the people want to be polluted, and yet they dream of some kind of renunciation. That's why all of these ideas became absolutely theoretical, because they have no practical application, because the majority of people don't even try to get rid of these parasites. They're just dreaming. Look how many cycles, you've been in this process, how many cycles one requires. I spent most of my life, and I'm still struggling, because sometimes when you're exposed to the common population, you would call it that way, you never know when you can reinfect yourself. But so the most important is that your frequency is high enough, and you're concealed, not by fear, not because, oh my God, germs. No, it's not about germs. It's about that your own body, if you, let's say, you don't reinfect yourself from the outside, your own body is that alchemical cauldron, as you understood from the webinar, that can self-create when there is imbalance in the stomach and in the intestines. They can self-generate, because even if you remove them, maybe there is one egg left, or some larva, or something else is there. It can self-ignite. Some rotting material is there, so it can self-produce. And this is what our science doesn't teach us, but this is what I've observed, contemplated upon, and understood. And I believe, from direct experience, I've seen that people who are really polluted usually have strange kind of fetishes and sexual perversion inclinations, because they've been infected by this for a long time. Or they have some kind of uncontrollable urges, like people, for example, who are very obese and they cannot control because some parasite has taken over, and possible not one parasite, but many different colonies. And so they succumb They cannot control. Their mind understands that I need to do something, but their flesh is now given to the parasite who cannot satiate their, needs or whatever, hunger. And so I've also discovered something interesting about the fat, this kind of uncontrollable fat, besides the fact that, you see, we think that it all comes from the food only, but I believe that our glands, because we are kind of coming out of nothing, and our metabolic function kind of dictates how we look, like in different moon cycles, you can retain more liquid or you can be less full of liquid, in the mornings your face can have more liquid, and in the evening you're more like tight. When parasites take over, there's so much, the residue of these parasites so much interferes with our hormonal system that the pollutants of these parasites mimic, for example, the pollutants of fungus can mimic some of our hormones, like estrogen, for example. And these people, they start sort of appearing big, even sometimes they already stopped eating a lot, but they're still appearing big. They can't lose weight because their glands don't function. Plus, of course, they could be medicated and so on and so forth. But like, the food itself cannot just disturb the body. It's usually that already there is a precondition. There is trauma, there is depression, there could be already overgrowth of fungi, let's say, and then it just spreads like wildfire, and then other parasites come in and so on and so forth, and that body just becomes like a hub of something. And it's not just pure fat. It's probably a lot of this stuff is parasitic matter, a residue of parasites. But of course, we will never know because the medical science doesn't explore it to that degree, perhaps. So, but a lot of doctors come forth nowadays and they say that the accumulation of pathogens and toxins in our human bodies at this point is so unprecedented that most of our current symptoms and diseases are the sign of this accumulation of toxicity. And we can medicate, we can stagnate our bodies, the function of glands to numb certain symptoms, but there is no healing. And that's why the process of deterioration is increased now. So I don't understand how anyone could assume that we're living longer. The quality of life is so poor from within. Yeah, you might be living 120 years, surviving there, basically not living, surviving, but living through pain and thinking that you're living. What's the purpose of that life, right? So, but no one tells us the meaning. And since we are disconnected from the souls, we're just literally suffering from this disconnection. The most of the people have this agony, because they just like, they have so much energy, but they don't know where to apply it, what to do, because it's just kind of, because that's why they're looking for something to stimulate them or to just give them a little joy, because there's no alignment. If one person living in this alignment, they can have the most boring life, nothing is happening, yet they feel happy, they feel that quality of life. Why wouldn't they live for thousands of years? Especially if they're aligned with the soul, and the soul makes sure that every cell vibrates the same high frequency, so there is no decomposition process. There is no disease. And no disease is not the definition, the scientific definition of health. Oh, you don't have symptoms. No disease means no aging. But I cannot remove this idea alone. Everyone has to come to this realization themselves and realize that disease itself is aging, or aging is the disease, the primary disease. In all the Ayurvedic texts, you may see the hint of that, because aging is disease. It's low energy, it's low vitality, it's imbalanced appetite, is addiction, craving, imbalanced sexual appetite, all kinds of imbalances. This is aging. Because when the person wants to run and yet they cannot like run, and starts, they want to do something, but they have no energetic capacity. So if we look at aging from that standpoint, we can notice the symptoms of aging as early as 12-year-old. Most of 12-year-old nowadays, they can't run. They just run 100 meters and like barely breathe. So can we say that a 12-year-old is not aging? Of course, they're all diseased. A baby can be aging fast. 12, a child, obese child. 8, obesity at 8, where they have heart failures. Other things, they break their bones because the bones, they're eating, but there's no nutritional value. So the bones are porous. They're toothless at the age of 8 because all their teeth have cavities because the amount of sugar they eat, and there's so little nutrition in the current food that. So it is not just the environment and the food that is causing aging, but it's first of all, the primary reason is misalignment with the soul, or lack of alignment. There's no source of energy that will support your life within. And then all the other factors are just contributing to it. And so what happens to the matter? Everyone, all of these religious doctrines and religious representatives are waiting for some kind of a judgment day to come, or something, to come, and the worst is yet to come. No, it has already been there for a very long time. And the decomposition of the matter, the premature decomposition, is just a result of it. And when people are indoctrinated, no, this is normal to live this way. Oh, yeah, it's okay. As long as you don't have symptoms, you are fine. But you're aging. As long as you are aging, you are diseased by default. Once you stop aging, well, let's talk then. So who can give a solution in this world? Only your own soul. And yet we're indoctrinated not to look for our own soul, but to look for the solution and for spirituality outside of us. Guidance is definitely important, but no one can push your alignment. You have to strive for it yourself. Someone may offer you, an opportunity to kind of reconnect with your soul if you're disconnected. But who's going to cultivate it? Only you. It's like people created gods and hold on to them without understanding that we need cosmic consciousness. We need that higher being, real higher being, not just a picture of someone or something, not just a book, not just words. We need that vibration. And the only way to actually find that vibration is to kind of draw within. Because again, what happens when you have this absorption? It's only first here. You're here, okay, your heart starts expanding, maybe so. But you have to continue cultivating so that you can actually be kind of pull that into your entire body so that you're settled inside and grounded in the body. The quality and the perception of life changes so greatly when you're free from parasites that a lot of things that we seemingly need in life vanish because like when you are restless, you're like, okay, let me do shopping, let me eat something, this fundamental feeling like of constant restlessness vanishes because there is inner fulfillment, because there's no longer that barrier where someone is sucking your energy from within. And let's say, okay, if we look at the world, okay, there are occultists and they can also harness the energy. They can only do it as long as they have, as you have parasites. The moment that is not there, your soul takes over and envelops your entire physical and energetic being, and it repels any type of attempts. So it becomes your natural shield. So the quality of life changes. All your thoughts about life, or some kind of illusory ideas, oh, I need this, I need that, all vanish. No longer want. You can have, but you don't want it. It's not like, oh my God. You're just sitting there and bathing, laying and bathing, walking and bathing, speaking and bathing, keeping silence and bathing without a change. Now, the goal is not to bathe. That's the outcome. The goal is to hear the vibration of the soul. You hear it actually. Because once there is deeper alignment, I mean, of course, when you awaken, you hear the vibration all the time. There's a subtle vibration, but then it starts permeating all over. Thoughts disappear. Why do they disappear? Because you close the doors to that collective residue, to that collective rubbish. And even if you kind of perceive something suddenly comes over, you know it's not yours. You know that your constant is thoughtlessness, emotionlessness. It doesn't mean you're not capable. You are capable, but that emotion is very pure and strong. And that's why it has creative or destructive power. How would you use it if you're in bliss? If you are in a balanced state? You will use the intelligence to observe what, when, and how you apply these tools of consciousness, right? Which are relevant for this physical reality, which is emotions and so on. If you know that something is not for you, you can create that emotional barrier. And your anger will become your barrier. It means don't come, no trespasses. Or you see the humility, that someone is there for you and giving them, that the energy of giving is that energy of pure love, unconditional love, just showering them. That's it. Again, one is drawing, one is repelling. Just qualities. Intelligence is that which evolves because it's no longer human intelligence. It's the intelligence of the soul. And so the vibration is perceived. The intelligence is aligned. Everything else is aligned. What is that then? Just living for the sake of life itself. Life for the capital L. Because you are life, right? You are life, you are energy, you are time as one. That is soul. If we wanted to understand soul from the human standpoint, what would that be? Soul. What is that soul? Life. Time and energy, and time equals energy and equals life, right? So it's all just one and the same. So what would be your calendar? Does the soul have any calendar? No? The soul broadcasts itself all the time. It transmits. It can bathe. Who is it bathing? It's bathing the body. That many religions or different spiritual schools are based on this idea of a child, but they got it maybe misinterpreted or got it all wrong, because your body is that child, which is bathing in the rays of your soul, because your soul is an eternal being. That's why you see in the Bible that the Father and the Son, right? Or the mother and the child. All is just as symbology, metaphor, because the body in reality is the fruit. On this level, I'm just speaking about this level. Of course, there can be all kinds of scenarios in cosmic plays and creations. But in terms of the earth, the body now becomes a fruit, and only then it becomes a fruit, when it is rooted in the soul, when the soul becomes an inexhaustible energy source. So they connected, the Father and the Son, or the mother and the child. The matter does not have life separately from the awareness, right? Consciousness, right? Which is the source of energy and power. So it is the body that receives this power and this charge of life and functions through the human form. All types of healings are fine, but they have limitations. The only source of real healing is your alignment with the soul, because the way your soul vibrates through the cells and heals them is incomparable with any other method invented by humans so far. The use of plants and the use of all these different kind of preparations, it can just kind of balance biochemistry of the body to a degree. But that's where, when we speak in terms of the soul, when the soul interferes, there's definite result of healing. This is, when people have sometimes miraculous healing, the miraculous healing happens actually just because they miraculously, so much were trying to call for something, thinking that it's outside of them, but somehow they connected with their own soul and the miracle took place. But the miracle could take place every day, every moment, if we were aware of the fact that we are that we are that eternal, immortal being. And the immortalization, of course, when I say about immortalization of the body could take place on earth too, it means that the life could be prolonged from what we know of now of life, or longevity of span of life. But the more the soul evolves and kind of merges then into more larger conscious clusters, the less it needs anything like this body. And this is where the paradox lies, that at some point there's no need, it's irrelevant, and so it decomposes. Not that it rots, but it dissolves into the higher frequency. Because you see, when I showed this diagram, this energy level here is so unimaginable, meaning from a standpoint of what kind of frequency, that this frequency just would then shatter. It is just the body, even though it can alchemize to a degree, the transmutation at some point will reach the level where it's beyond the vibrational level of the flesh. Even if it's transmuted, that it will be difficult to kind of higher frequency or vibrational level, because it will start decomposing simply the matter already. I'm not sure that that consciousness will even want to be around people anymore. And even with my personal humble consciousness, or I wouldn't call my consciousness actually personal, to be honest. It's a cosmic consciousness, but kind of appearing through an individual being. And what I'm trying to say, that even with my humble level of evolution, I would say that even now, I would say that the need for socialization is questionable, because socialization in reality requires like-mindedness, requires similar level of consciousness. But, you know, tortoises have to socialize with tortoises and wolves with wolves. I'm not sure that tortoises would want to socialize with ants, or ants are very keen on socializing even with bees, because every species, I don't know, every type of species has its own vibrational level. And in nature, you can clearly see that how they're segregated. When you're a human, in a human form, it's almost like a mix. You can all look like humans, but vibrational levels differ. So if you cannot find, that's what's different between the human incarnation and any other animal incarnation, because you're not segregated the same way. And you're not segregated by bodies and communities of bodies. You're segregated by frequency. And certain people's frequencies will be repellent, even though you're both, or all of you are in different human bodies and seemingly have to get along and build something together. At this point of cycle, it seems impossible, because at this point of cycle, there is severe fragmentation and division, where the appearance does not necessarily show right away who is there inside that body. And high vibration or low vibration, still there can be differences in emotional composition, in mental expression, in intellectual capacities, and so forth. And so all these differences, you may say, they cause a problem. And that's why you see that people have difficulty copulating, finding pairs, or finding mates to mate with, even because there is so much incompatibility and so different ways of expression, because people went too far from authentic expression. And so one person represents nowadays the expression of the entire bloodline. And so, say a person A, John, let's say, or whatever name, appears as a man, but he represents his mom, his dad, his brothers, his sisters, his grandparents, what they represent, their belief systems, that they represent the social system, and so on and so forth. And then John is too far from being authentic self. And that's why we see that there's a clash between, not, say, John and Jane, but between actually social systems and structures and different other beliefs and ideologies, rather than actually just a natural experience of natural differences between different humans, you know, because it's not just different souls that are clashing, because in a way, if they were aligned with themselves, they most probably wouldn't clash, because they would be in a blissful state of openness and acceptance to perceive maybe an idea, knowing that that idea doesn't have anything to do with who they truly are. But when we kind of crystallize our identity around these ideas and belief systems, it's almost like if I'm opposing your belief, it's I'm opposing you. And that becomes the reason for clash and conflict and incompatibility. So because we're so much absorbing this external information and kind of dividing it into, yeah, this is for me, this is not for me, I believe in it, I disbelieve in that, it causes us this kind of artificial existence where we actually clash at the artificial level and never know who we're dealing with. It's like, oh, John agrees with my ideas. Oh, Jane agrees with my ideas. Okay, let's be together. But then at some point, there are some other things and challenges that don't match, and then suddenly don't like each other and hate because they never actually connected at that higher level. And so that's where we have the world of divorces and relationship issues and all this kind of clashes, because no one knows who they are, and yet they have such a strong desire to, I don't know, mate or connect sexually that it deludes their understanding, and their connections happen through misalignment. Their connections do not happen from the soul because there's no understanding of who they are. And thus the selective process, or the selection, is affected by that misalignment. And then they cry, then they complain, then they don't know, then they are escaping into drugs or something else, medicating themselves simply because there's no alignment with the soul. Or people also escape into spirituality because they're dissatisfied. So they need an idea to fulfill them, because maybe their partner believes in something else. I mean, it's a sad world, definitely. But at this point, the most important is, again, to kind of know what's happening, but be very deeply aligned with yourself, and just simply observe the world from inside, you know. When you're aligned, it's easier to observe differences, clashes, because there is no emotional connection there. It hurts when you attached, when there is an emotional connection, and then it hurts. And that's why when you grow spiritually, you grow in intelligence. It means you dissolve the human context, erode it, because the whole human context is only applicable to the socio-cultural structures or other type of structures that were created. It's just like an artificial construct within a construct. It doesn't have any application to the soul. But many people do speak about soul. Soul this, soul that, but the differences, are they? And if they're not, then it's just a bogus conversation. Everyone is looking for DNA upgrades, the end of the world, this and that. How about supporting the inner alignment every second? Then you don't need to worry about the world. Your own soul will take care of you. Your higher intelligence will take you or remove you from negative situations, or will manifest whatever. And it's not, I'm not speaking from the standpoint of I'm now, the soul is my master. It's like you and the soul and you are one. Your intelligence is driven by the higher being. Then there is no mistake. You go awry, you take detours when you are not aligned. Once you're aligned, the time of detours is over. There is just simplicity. And there is no boredom in this simplicity. As long as there is boredom, there is misalignment. So when you're going through these moments of boredom and it's at that point, there's something there that there's no alignment, because an aligned being can just sit there no matter how many hours and just be still satisfied, content, pulsating with life. So it actually will be more difficult to do something than just to be. And then you will need to reteach yourself to actually act through that being. Because it's at the start, you'll go, no way, I'm going to get up now and do. Because I'm so blissed out, I'm so happy. And again, from my standpoint, everything is about alignment. So neither of these extremes should be too much, cultivated. There has to be balance. You have to be able to be blissful in action or in inaction, in being. If you're just only blissful continuously, and let's say your house is dirty, you have chaos, and you need to do something but you fail, or you have certain, I don't know, like needs to be full, something needs to be done, duties, let's say chores, and you just know, I'll be blissful. And you cannot make an effort. You cannot retain that blissful equanimity through chores and other duties. Then it also becomes a problem. Because this life is about balance. And the mastery relies in the ability to actually align yourself. So you make an effort. You enjoy your blissful state, but then you make an effort to get up and do. Or you can shift. You learn to shift from one mode to the other.